Quick Slants is presented by your local New England Honda dealers.
So what happens now, huh? What happens to all the takes, Tom, huh? The trade down takes, the I love J.J. McCarthy takes, do they just disappear under the avalanche of sensible offensive picks? They do not. Drake Maye is a dice roll. I can love the arm strength, and I can love the build and the personality and the DNA and the fact that the Patriots work to get guys that he can grow with, like Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. But J.J. McCarthy is better now. And if Maye doesn't tidy up his footwork and decision-making, J.J. McCarthy will remain that way. So I still like J.J. And I still think a trade down made sense, ladies and gentlemen. Had the Patriots done the deal with the Vikings, 3 first-round picks, they could have dropped down to 11. They could have taken J.J. McCarthy, maybe Xavier Legette, Keon Coleman, or Xavier Worthy at 23. They'd have, 2 first-round picks for 2025. And if they wanted to, they could have hopped back into the first round at the end and maybe taken, like, Tyler Guyton, the big tackle. Huh? And they'd still have the 34th overall pick, hypothetically. So that's my second guess for the Patriots draft. But as I said time and again, the Patriots could not lose in the 2024 draft, and they didn't. They got a really talented kid in Drake Maye that they can mold. He's not going to be Sam Darnold. He's not going to be Jake Locker. And even though he's got the most work to do of all the first-round quarterbacks, he was the safest pick the Patriots could make because everyone's been loving the Drake for 2 years now. Overall, I'm giving the draft a B+. Phil Perry in for another week of trying to make me look dumb. Bring it.
Never, sir. I actually agree with you on your grade. I just like the Drake Maye pick much better than you do. I think where we differ is probably with some of the later picks. I did think there was an opportunity for them to get something closer to a number 1 receiver in this class. There were a couple that went off the board just ahead of where they picked, or where they were scheduled to pick at 34 overall. They had an opportunity to take somebody who's actually played left tackle in the college ranks before. That might have been nice as well. I give it a B+ as well, even though Drake Maye is better than J.J. McCarthy. Stop it with the J.J. is better right now. You know who thinks Drake Maye is better right now than J.J. McCarthy? It's the team who took J.J. McCarthy. They were willing to move heaven and earth to draft Drake Maye. Instead, they sat there and they took J.J. at 10.
All right, we'll circle back up with me and see who has better stats this year. Okay, game plan coming up.
You know that's not a fair
We got an
argument.
audience takeover. We got plenty of intel and questions from you guys. We have another re-signing by the Patriots, the Green Bay Way in the draft. Did we see that? And draft superlatives, all with Phil. Plenty of time for you people to get involved, but it's time now for Quickfire. It's presented by your local New England Honda dealers. Didn't get enough Felger from 2 to 6. Here's a little more Felger on grades for the draft.
There's nothing dumber than giving someone an A the day after the draft. Like, that's just patently stupid. And it happens every single year. And when someone gives your team an A from their draft, you never sit there and say, have you done your homework? Did you watch the film? Do you know what you're talking about? You just go, oh, we gave him an A. Cool. It's only when you say, no, I'm going to give him an F. You say, did you watch the tape? Did you do your homework? Which I haven't on either front. But what's the diff? You don't care about the homework. You care about the grade.
Can you imagine the lighthouse that Michael would have had the Patriots gotten a massive round of Fs from around the NFL? He would have believed in the grades then. He can't have people out there being happy willy-nilly all over the countryside. He has to have Fs, and if they're As, well, then those As don't mean anything at all, do they? Because nobody knows. But if they were Fs, everybody would have had it checked off and perfect, right, Phil?
Yeah, I can't tell if this is just a continuation of his relentless assault on optimism in general, or if he hates grades, period. Because it doesn't sound like he hates the grades because he likes the Fs. I listen to people, whether it's Felger or anybody else, who criticizes people who give grades right after the draft. What I would say is, we get it. We understand. These grades are in all likelihood not going to be accurate, but it's just like predicting a game, predicting outcomes over the course of a 17-game season. They're all shots in the dark. They're all dart throws. Nobody knows what they're talking about, but we do it anyway because it's a way to get at some actual information, some actual insight, some actual opinion. That's what the business Mike Felger was in, some actual opinion on the picks that just happened. It's not that serious, guys.
And as a friend of mine who likes to show a little chest hair likes to say, we have a show to do. We have a daily show to do, okay? So we have to have takes. Meanwhile, Gerard Mayo had a take talking about Drake Maye. Hit it, Mayo.
No, there was absolutely discussion, and you could throw Penix in there as well. One thing we said when we bring guys in on the 30 visits, like, we're not trying to mislead the public. We're not trying to get cute with who we bring in. Like, we had genuine interest in every player that we brought into the building, and that, you know, those exposures are very important throughout the evaluation process.
So I bring this up because I'm a JJ guy. I think he's a good player now. I think he's fundamentally sound. I think he's got a much better arm than people really even are close to realizing. Better foot speed. I think he would have been a smart move. I wonder, though, Phil, if the late rally by him was enough, or did people start to look at him with a little skepticism and say, look, he wasn't that good all year. He's not that good now.
Yeah, I don't know if the late rally was really a late rally. My guess is the NFL for a long time has viewed him as sort of a middle of the first round kind of pick. And if he was truly viewed in the same class as Jaden Daniels and Drake Maye and Caleb Williams, he would have gone much higher. This was a draft that obviously was hungry for quarterbacking talent. It set records in terms of the number of quarterbacks that went off in the first 12 picks. And he was one of them. And we should be giving him credit for that. Clearly, he is a good player. I just don't think he was. Listen, I will say this. I know he was never really in the conversation at 3. Did the Patriots have an interest in him? Were they intrigued by his skill set? Yes and yes, but not at 3 overall.
It's funny. And, hey, we had a lot of Elliott Wolf conversation begun by our guy Tony Pauline and then throughout the last month about how interested Elliott Wolf was in that. However, you're reporting right now, here in front of everyone, here in front of New England and all the people on the internet who will watch this, that the interest at 3 was not as real. But is the interest of the Patriots in having Drake Maye out there fresh and shiny in the first week of September real? Mayo?
But I would say, like, we're going to compete all spring. We're going to compete during training camp, and the best player will start. Let me go back a couple of questions ago. We're not sitting here saying that Drake is our starting quarterback. I think he understands that. He understands the things that he has to get better at. And, you know, with coaching and, once again, the hard work and the coaches that we have, the support system from ownership, you know, I think he has a chance to go out there and really play at a high level. You can talk about potential all you want to. Until you reach it, it really doesn't matter.
You know what quick slants will teach you? It'll teach you that while you have the mic, you have the ball, and if you have to go back and circle back and fix something, go ahead and do that. And I think that's what Mayo said. He got the cart ahead of the horse a little bit with Drake, and then said, whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, we're not starting him. I forgot that's what we're saying.
No, I think he's leaving the possibility open. I don't think he actually went back and changed anything in his first statement. I think he just wanted to make it more clear. The door is open. Guys are going to compete. He's not saying that he's going to be the starting quarterback, but he also didn't definitively say that he wouldn't be. What I would say, Tom, is it more likely than not that Jacoby Brissett is the Patriots starting quarterback in 2024? I would say yes. But you have to leave the door open. What if he ends up tearing it up in training camp? Brian Hoyer was sitting here the other day saying footwork. Psh, footwork. Pah! You can fix footwork in a heartbeat. If that ends up getting cleaned up and he looks pretty good, what are you going to do? Just sit him just to sit him?
All right, we're going to deep dive that and plenty more. Meanwhile, here's a tweet from Ghost of Jay Stone. I thought this was interesting and a good jumping off spot. I can understand the excitement surrounding Maye. Easy decision. However, the jubilation over the rest of the picks is peculiar. Need it be said again, this is the same group of evaluators that drafted Mac Jones, Thornton Strange. It wasn't all BB. Well, that's the perception that ownership had clearly, Phil, that it was all BB and these guys were muzzled. What did you see different from this group, and this is set up for the Green Bay way, in this draft?
Well, it was a wholehearted investment on the offensive side of the ball. And I know there were people who were upset after last year's draft when the Patriots, who obviously were in need of offensive talent, with defense. So that, to me, is number one, what stands out. You draft the quarterback, and then you try to build an environment around him in order to nurture him and get the most out of that high upside physical skill set. We clearly didn't see that happen over the course of the last 3 years here with Mac Jones.
All right. Meanwhile, Christian Barmore, he re-signs a deal, and these are the numbers for his deal. Fat numbers. 4 years, worth up to $92 million, 41.8, fully guaranteed, $2.71 million cap hit. Ladies and gentlemen, Christian Barmore, I can already hear the conversation. You've got a defensive cornerstone coming in. But, Phil, in the wake of this deal, I think we're going to hear a lot of people saying, you know, well, why'd the Patriots re-sign all these guys that Bill drafted or had as free agents if they're not any good, huh? Why is Bill not here? And that is just so disingenuous to me. Yes, there are hits like Onwenu. There are hits like Barmore. There's hits like Kendrick Bourne to an extent. Demario Douglas is more than fine. You've got players like Duggar who are worthwhile. But remember, there are no all-pros, unless you want to include Gunner, and Jake Bailey from 2020 on that list. Since 2019, there's one Pro Bowler. It's Mac Jones since 2021. Yeah, they retained some of the players who were pretty good, and some of them are really good. But by and large, the drafts over the last decade have been pockmarked by disastrous misses. Christian Barmore as a second-round pick, Phil, good hit. He ain't no Cyrus Jones. He ain't no Jordan Richards. He ain't no Tavon Wilson. He ain't no, give me more second-rounders who didn't work out.
Oh, Duke Dawson, yeah, of course. Razai Dowling. The list goes on and on. I like how they went about signing this deal with Christian Barmore, Tom, because typically what Bill Belichick had done for many years over the last, 10, 15 or so, but he would let these guys get to free agency before extending him. It wasn't a universal approach, but I think it saves you some money. If you do this with good players and you re-up them before they get to the market, I think that can do your team a lot of good in the long run.
Agreed. Now, from the stands, ladies and gentlemen, we wanted to hear from you, so we sent this out on Twitter, also known as X. How do you feel about Drake Maye becoming an NFL starter before Halloween? Interestingly, because if you add those up, you have 23 and 24, 47% of you say, no, I don't really want him out there. 48% say, look, if he wins the job, get his ass out there, will you please? 5.3% say, give me Jacoby right now for the rest of the summer. Here's the comments. Wagner, if he and the team are ready, absolutely. Nonsense to put a timeline on anything. If he's better than expected from camp, and Wallace, that's Caden, lineman, takes the left tackle right away, why sit him at all? But if he and the O-line isn't ready, don't start him prematurely. Next one up. Mike, I like this one. Think the O-line and weapons need time. If he's ready, he should play. Talking about Jordan Love, spent 3 seasons. You never put Love on the bench, okay, if you want to be happy in life. Meanwhile, Stanislaw, if he's genuinely ready and not thrust into it by ownership because Brissett isn't getting it done, then yeah, the owner is known to be averse to criticism. Averse is good. I like the vocab on our people. My buddy Pat Patriot, footwork could be cleaned up this offseason, which is what Hoyer said. You never know. It's absolutely possible. If the kid's showing out, wins a job, it is his. Phil, I say gestation period should go on until he is clearly and completely ready to play football. And if Jacoby Brissett is playing well enough, and they're 3-2, 3-4, let it roll. Let it roll. You?
I think that's fine. I think it depends on what the situation looks like. Listen, again, is it likely that Caden Wallace steps in as a third-round pick after having played his entire career in college at right tackle and is a good-to-go left tackle? Probably not. If that happens to be, though, and Drake Maye is out there, we make it sound like he's like 5 years away from being pro caliber. He's not. He's not. He's already pretty damn good. There are a few things you have to clean up. Like with every rookie, if it looks good, do it.
Yeah, we just don't want Jake Locker. All right, coming up after the break, yes, they took Drake, but they also took some other guys. We're going to talk more about the draft and why you should be enthused. Sorry, Mike.
Quick Slants is brought to you in part by Dr. Matthew Lopresti, the hair doctor of Tom Curran.
Potential. Brought to you by Dr. Matthew Lopresti. Look younger, feel younger, get your hair back with Leonard Hair Transplant Associates. Check them out. Phil did comps, and this is why Phil is just, he lives for the draft, and then he shuts it down and he is less than effective most of the rest of the year, but the draft is great. See, who else would have Yaheem Bell, the tight end, drafted, comparable to Phil? Chigoziem Okonkwo.
Nailed it.
Okay, you see the rest of them there. Deshaun Kaiser for Joe Milton. He was sitting around trying to figure out a comp for Joe Milton. He finally came up with Deshaun Kaiser. Time now, ladies and gentlemen, from my slant. All right, and yeah, I second-guessed the Maye pick at the top of the draft. Watch out! But I'm still a fan of trading down and taking McCarthy. But did I hate the draft? I did not. What I liked was a full-on draft for need, which I wasn't sure I was getting when Elliott Wolf said this last week to us.
We have NFL receivers, we have NFL tight ends, we have NFL running backs, we have NFL offensive linemen. We feel good about where we are, and we feel through free agency on the offensive side in particular that we've been able to supplement our roster properly so we're not having to draft for need as much offensively.
Thankfully, that didn't come to pass. Instead, we got almost all offense, almost all the time, which is a good idea when you have the worst offense in the NFL with no quarterback, a wide receiver group that won't wow anybody, and a get creative playing at left tackle. Singles and doubles. Dependable guys who play all the time. Why not take A.D. Mitchell instead of Polk in the second round? Because Polk's dependable. He's a Jacoby Myers type. And it's nice to bring in one of those guys for a young quarterback rather than sending them out. So to sum it up, there were no hold my beer selections like a kicker in the 4th round. There was one minor trade down. It's a whole lot of stick and pick at positions that a team with an offense as unwatchable as New England's needed to make. So after floundering, and they did in free agency, the Patriots did what feels like the right thing in the National Football League annual player selection portion of the season. Phil?
Yeah, I like that they took a bunch of swings on the offensive side. I'm with you in that regard. Philosophically, nice job by the Patriots. Here's what I would say, though, Tom, in terms of a criticism. You went into this draft needing a left tackle. You went into this draft needing somebody who could play and live on the outside and be a true number 1 receiver. I understand it's hard to get all 3 things that you needed, add a quarterback into that mix as well in any one draft.
Could have traded down.
But they only came away with really one of those 3 things. You're not sure at left tackle. You got a couple of maybe 2s to add to the 2s and 3s that you already have on the roster. So that's the criticism, is that you went in with some real yawning needs at really critical spots, and you didn't necessarily, obviously, at least, address them all.
Hey, you could have traded down. Don't make that face. All right, we have another poll question coming at you right now. This was a poll question. It's not a poll. It's more of a audience participation question. What was your favorite Patriots move in the draft? What was your heartiest second guess? First up, Popstello, not trading the number 3 pick. What the flip did they waste a pick on Milton for? Next, Danny H. Outside of Maye, it's Javon Baker that he's enthused about, not trading up to get that left tackle that played that position in college. We'll get into Jaden Collins a little bit more with Phil. Seth Main, loyal follower, picking Javon Baker after seemingly missing out on Troy Franklin at 103, settling on Polk instead of trading back a second time. This was Phil's lament as well. And then finally, our guy Brad Whitaker, Javon Baker, could develop into a boundary X. And I like Caden Wallace, but not trading up for a guaranteed left tackle a few picks before. Those are nits that can be picked. Meanwhile, my Patriots Talk podcast did it today with my buddies Taylor Kyles and Brian Hines, 2 of the best young guys on the beat. They give their intel, and we're going to get Devin McCourty later in the week. So scan that QR code on the screen or find it on your favorite podcasting app or on YouTube. All right, we have Phil, P-H-I-L, in the blank, coming up after the break. His favorite draft superlatives.
Is presented by your local New England Honda dealers. Contact your local New England Honda dealer for a great deal today.
Ladies and gentlemen, did you know that coming up at 6:30, if you turn in for our Bella Early Edition with Trenny, you'll see Trenny Casey, who will take a deep dive into the biggest sports stories of the day? It's true. It's true. Phil, this is going to be a recurring Quick Slants event. Now, Quick Slants goes into a little bit of a hiatus after today, but going into 2024, our 15th season, fill in the blank. Check it out, yo. First one, fill in the blank, Phil. The underlying message of the Patriots draft was...
Our offense is terrible. 7 out of 8 picks on the offensive side of the ball, and I know you were so hung up on what Elliott Wolf said to us prior to the draft, but I told you on this very program just after he said it, Tom, it's that time of year. He can't come out and say that he hates everybody that's on the roster, that's in the other room across the hall working out right now. So he has to say nice things about those guys. That's all that was.
In the hall! That's a little SpongeBob reference. You didn't watch SpongeBob. I watched a lot of SpongeBob. Next up, keep them rolling, buckets. Fill in the blank. Jalen Polk and Javon Baker won't work because?
I'm going to say because they're not burners. They're not all that fast. And generally speaking, at that position, that's something that you need. Now, do they play faster than their time speed? Both guys ran in the 4.5s at their 40-yard dash, at the combine. So that, to me, is the easy one. It doesn't mean they can't succeed, but if they don't, it might be because they're not super speedsters.
All right, next up, here we go. Fill in the blank. Your favorite pick, Phil, was?
Now, having said that about Javon Baker, 4.54 in the 40, he was my favorite pick outside of Drake Maye, okay? I love Drake Maye. Right move there at number 3 overall. Javon Baker, to me, though, has the upside to be a legitimate starting caliber X. All kinds of acrobatic catches on his tape, can work the boundary, can get down the field. I think he is a little bit faster than that time speed. We'll have to wait and see. But he has the profile, Tom, of a true, quote-unquote, number 1 if all goes right.
Circling back real quick before we get to the next one. You got a Jalen Polk there, right? Say they got Ladd McConkey or A.D. Mitchell. would you have said that that was an advantageous, because both of those guys were rated higher than Jalen Polk, generally speaking? I like Polk not because I didn't like McConkey or A.D. Mitchell, but just simply he feels like a solid contributor, the high floor guy.
Safer. That's how I would describe him. He's been described to me by NFL people as a Jacoby Myers type, as a Tyler Boyd type. If you're a fan of that Bengals passing offense, he's going to do all the dirty work. He'll block. He won't be at 1, Tom. You know, A.D. Mitchell might someday be a 1. That's how he profiles physically. This guy's not that. But if he's a solid number 2 for the length of his rookie contract the next 4 years, then that's a hit in the second round.
And they all grow together. Next, fill in the blank. The riskiest pick, Phil, was, I'm going to say it's Drake Maye. To me, it's Drake Maye. That's your riskiest pick because, again, he is your boom or bust candidate. I know that you think boom is more likely than bust, but bust on the table at number 3 makes me nervous.
I get that. It's number 3 overall, and he's a guy that didn't trend necessarily in the right direction. 2 years ago, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Last year, the numbers are still pretty good, but they're not quite to the same level. To me, the biggest risk is going with Caden Wallace in the 3rd round and hoping that he can play left tackle. I mean, you really don't have an answer at one of the most important positions in the sport on your roster right now, and you're asking a guy who played nothing but right tackle at Penn State to flip on over to the other side. And we know, Tom, can be difficult for some guys.
And they whistled past the graveyard at the tackle position last year and paid the price for it. Hate to see that happen again. You got to shake one off the tackle tree. Your heartiest second guess, Phil, is
not moving up to get Xavier Legette at the bottom of the 1st round. Now, they tried, right? They wanted to do something along those lines, whether it was for Legette or for Keon Coleman, who was taken right ahead of them at the top of the 2nd round. But trying and doing are 2 different things, and I wonder if they were able to potentially sprinkle a little bit more into that trade offer with whomever it was, whether it was the Ravens or the Bills or another team at the bottom of the 1st round, to be able to go up and get a guy who does project, Tom, potentially as a real number 1, not that number 2 type that we think Polk might be.
Good stuff. Here we go. Last one. Fill in the blank. Who will now be looking over their shoulder?
Oh, boy. Where do you want to start this list, Tom? How about Juju Smith-Schuster? How about Tyquan Thornton after a couple of receivers drafted in the first 4 rounds? How about Cole Strange? After Layden Robinson was taken in the 4th round. They need to figure out those spots and where those guys are going to be. I know Juju's getting a lot of money next year, Tom, but I don't think he's going to be on the roster this coming year. Do you?
This coming year?
Yeah.
He's got his work cut out for him. I mean, he was a 20-odd catch guy this past year. So, I mean, you couldn't ride him like we rode Phil throughout the draft process. Phil Perry, you've been outstanding. Love your intel. You made us all smarter. I want to be like you when I grow up. Thank you so much. You are our beast of burden. Meanwhile, I do want to send a shout out to my guy, George Williamson, the codger. A Navy man, he's down there at Pine Hills, and he, every year, at 87 years old, handwrites all his draft prospects and sends them to my house. Thank you, Codger. I love you.